I had been wanting a change in life. I couldn't think of any way to create that change, aside from leaving this area, the place where I had lived all my life. The same old town, day in and day out, nothing ever changing. It was so boring. I needed a change of scenery, or something exciting to happen, or something. I decided to leave town, which would fulfill both needs. When looking for a place, I wanted to find somewhere that had a lot of land that was near the woods, so I could go mushroom hunting. Ideally, it would also have to be near some streams so that I could go fishing. I found the perfect little place, and it was just within my budget. It was near Amish country. There was a nice little trailer and a big pole barn, which I decided to live in as it suited my needs more than the trailer did. Now, I've always lived in the city, and there's always so much noise that you can't hear any of the wildlife. But out here in the country, there's so much wildlife that can be heard. I had never heard more than you'd ever imagine. I'd never heard so many frogs, crickets, and coyotes calling out in nature before. It's almost like nature itself calls back out to them. Lately, though, I've been feeling like I'm almost being watched. It feels like there are eyes coming from the woods. Whenever I'd look back, however, I don't see anything. I figured it was just my imagination, so I just scan the woods real quick and then decide to go about my business and either cut my grass or just go out walking in nature. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hear sounds in the woods. It was like the sounds of leaves crunching and sticks breaking. I just always figured it was the wildlife, maybe a deer or coyote, something along those lines. One night, as I was sitting in my home, I had been enjoying some steak that I grilled and a fresh, ice-cold glass of tea, when it sounded like the noises were growing louder and approaching closer, and my instincts were telling me to investigate. I figured if it was an animal, I could throw it some steak gristle or something. I opened the big sliding door to the side of the pole barn, which was big enough for me to fit out. The steak fell out of my hands, and my blood ran cold as I saw the looming figure in front of me. It looked like a beautiful, massive white wolf. I'd never seen something that amazed, shocked, and terrified me all at once, until this moment. As the wolf began to walk closer to me, I tried to start moving back and get inside so I could lock the door, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move, as if some unseen force was holding me firm. Soon the wolf was right in front of me, and it would be too late to run, regardless of my current inability to do so. For some odd reason, I felt compelled to speak, and so I started out a greeting to the wolf, who had started eating the gristle that I had dropped. The wolf briefly stopped chewing, as if contemplating on how it should answer, which caught me off guard. The magnificent wolf looked up and locked eyes with me. Its eyes were menacing, but there was no intent to kill visible in its eyes. Without moving its mouth, it started to speak.
"I am the guardian of these woods,"
it said. When it spoke, it sounded like hundreds of different voices were all speaking in perfect unison, all with a tone of innate, almost boastful pride. It then told me it was grateful for the scraps that I had given it. When I asked if it had a name, it told me it did not. When I asked what I should call it, aside from the guardian of the woods, it just sort of chuckled. It then said,
"I've been protecting this forest for hundreds of years. In that time, none have been brave enough to talk to me like you have. You may call me by any name you wish."
I pondered for a minute, wondering to myself what name could relate to a wolf. After I had come up with the name I thought suited it best, I asked, "How does Shiroi Cage sound?" When the great wolf asked why I chose that name, I explained that it means white shadow in Japanese. After several moments of pondering the name, the wolf started nodding its head in approval. I then asked Shiroi Cage if he was still hungry. It nodded its head once again in affirmation, but then it said that it could hunt if needed. I told the wolf to wait right here and that I had something for it. I had cooked several steaks that night, despite the fact that I was the only person living on the property. I had cooked them early, so that I wouldn't have to actually cook for the next few days, only heat them up. I came back to the door with a full plate of these steaks. I then asked him if he would like a full steak, rather than just the fat and gristle from one, as well as if he minded me eating with him. Shiroi Cage almost immediately agreed. As we ate, he mentioned that he had never had company, or at least hasn't for as long as he could remember, and that eating with me had made him happy. After we were done eating, we continued talking. The more I got to know of the great wolf, the more awesome he seemed, and my respect for him continued to grow. As the sun began to rise, Shiroi Cage stretched, then told me that he would need to leave so he could go to sleep. When I asked if I would see him again, he responded by saying,
"I'll always be around, my new friend. And if you're accepting of it, I would like to stop by every once in a while to check on you."
Hearing this, my jaw sort of dropped. I asked if he was serious about us being friends, to which he confirmed that yes, he was serious, and we were friends. As he was getting ready to go, he walked up to me and bowed his head. I asked if he wanted me to pat it, and he nodded yes. When I patted his head, it felt like a whole new experience. I cannot put the sensation or the feeling it gave me into words, but I knew from that point on that he and I had bonded. He then thanked me again as he said goodbye. From that point on, I knew that if I ever had to call for help, Shiroi Cage would be there.